Good morning, fellas. How are you?
I'm doing well, sir. Hope
Good.
you are.
Good.
It's good.
Doing
Good
real
day.
well. Real well. What's been going on? Greg's been in Gatlinburg.
Yeah, I got to go down to Accelerant, where all of our students were for their winter retreat this weekend, with about 3,300 other people.
I heard it was a
gathered.
big crowd
It
down
was
there.
a really good crowd. Great
Yeah.
services, great weekend, man. Students' lives were impacted. Pastor John and Taylor and all of our leaders did a great job leading our group. So proud of them. But yeah, no, it was a good weekend. Great weekend. Everybody came back tired, including myself. So, but I'm here.
Very good.
Yeah.
The other half of the staff wants to go to Gatlinburg now.
Yeah, we're gonna leave right after this podcast.
Oh, is
Yes,
that right?
We're gone.
We're gonna.
Okay.
We
taking
found
off.
out, if you didn't know, we had, how many were at Gatlinburg? 4?
We had 4 of our staff there.
And then 2 of our staff here had to be out this weekend, so we actually ran all the services with only 4 staff this week. And we found out we can do it, but we're all wanting to go to Gatlinburg this week.
All right, well, you can
See how it works for
Well,
us,
we're
right?
recording this on Monday, so by all means, go ahead on down and just come on back on Wednesday. That'd be
Oh,
good.
goodness. That's not what we had in mind.
Just saying, sounds like a good time.
Glad y'all had a good time. Had
Yeah.
a good time here this weekend.
That's
Had
what I
much
heard.
much folks here this weekend, and good responses. We had people say yes to Christ all weekend, all 4 services. And I preached about giving. It amazes me that it seems like when I preach about giving, I'm always worried about how it's going to come across.
Yeah.
Normally, not much anymore, but people come to Christ every service. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
No, it was great to hear, great to see that, and man, so thankful to hear about what God was doing here this weekend.
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
such a powerful time, and I thought it was a great message on bold giving.
Well, it was fun. It was. We talked about the woman who gave the widow's mite, the widow who gave these 2 small coins, and Jesus was watching, and he remarked, and we talked about how Jesus is not impressed with the amount of our offering. It's the percentage that we give.
Right.
And so it was good. It was well received, and some crazy things happened. I had, at the end of second service, a little boy come up, and he must have been 12 years old. He come up with his mother, and he said, "I want to give you this." And he gave me a $10 bill, and he gave that whole thing, and that was his birthday money.
Oh wow.
I was blown away by that.
Yeah.
I took his picture, and I've got it on my phone, but I was just blown away by this kid just coming up, giving all his birthday money. I mean, if I had not just preached about this woman giving all she had and Jesus let her do it,
Yeah.
if I had not just preached that, I would have insisted this kid
Can
take
take
that
his money
$10
back.
back. But I couldn't.
Right.
I just preached about how you give everything to the Lord and he blesses it. So this kid, I'm sure, has got a blessing coming back his way from
Absolutely.
the Lord. But it's funny how that worked out. I was called to live that out.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's hard. I think the thing that really stuck out to me was the idea of kind of what you just said, how it's not really about the amount, it's about the percentage, or really where you narrowed it down even further was the amount of sacrifice that's really involved in it. Did it really hurt for you to give something up in that situation? And for me, that really stuck out because it can be so easy to feel like, oh, I'm doing a good thing and do it for that reason and it not really hurt at all. And I think that was just a good challenge and a reminder to step up to the plate.
Yeah, we've done that, and I mentioned it. I really hesitated to talk about our personal lives, but I felt it necessary. Sometimes you need to know where your leader's at and how your leader's leading, and I wanted to let them know that we've done that. Alexa and I have given, based on percentage, all our marriage. We started at 10, and now I mentioned we're up to 15, and it's just been such a blessing to be able to do that. And I'm normally the guy who's more kind of penny pincher and worried about finances. I worry about the money more than she does. She's responsible with it, but I just tend to worry about it. And every time God's called us to up that percentage and give more, sometimes it's been like, wow, that's a lot. But it's always been accompanied by this peace and this joy that we're actually going to be able to invest into the kingdom.
That's such an easy trap, I feel like, to fall into. I think most people worry about money. I think, if you poll people and ask them, worry is probably one of the bigger, money is probably one of the bigger things they worry about. And anytime you start to even consider giving, I think most people would like to give. Like, when you ask people, I think that they would like to give, but it's the idea of, if I start doing that, I'm not going to have enough to live on. And it would have been very easy. And in this woman's situation that you referenced in Scripture, that was her situation. Like giving this away meant that she's probably not going to eat, right? That she's not going to be able to be able to live off of. And I think that we kind of fall into that trap of if I make this commitment, if I invest into this, if I choose to live radically generous in a consistent way to give, I don't know that I'm going to have enough to live off of. I don't know that I'm going to be able to make it. What would you say to those people?
I've been in ministry 30 years. I've never seen a person give themselves into poverty.
Yeah.
Never, ever.
Yeah.
People tell you that. I mean, after services this week, I hear giving story after giving story after giving story. And it's not people who are just wealthy and gave a little surplus. It's people who didn't have a lot and gave it to the Lord, and they'll tell me how he multiplied it back to them again and again and again.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't get out of the pulpit Thursday night before I heard 2 stories. And it's just over and over again. People were telling me that on Sunday also. Just God's faithful when you give.
Right.
You won't give yourself into poverty. You won't outgive God. We say that. I've lived it. You cannot outgive God. We lived it as a church. You can't give enough that God doesn't pour right back into you.
I love that it was like you were in my brain when you're like, this is one of those stories where I really wish I knew what happened to that lady.
Oh, yeah.
And I love this idea of Zacchaeus just a few days earlier. And
Yeah.
I'm like, man, I hope that happened.
Oh, I really do. You know, if they weren't here, Zacchaeus, the whole deal with him happened a couple days before this, and he promised, Jesus he was going to give half his possessions to the poor. That's a big gift right there.
Absolutely.
Half of everything you've accumulated to the poor. And I just wonder if Jesus connected them. But I know, I don't have to see it in the Bible to know. I don't have to see the end of her story to know the principle in the Scripture is true. It's more blessed to give than to receive. And, give and it shall be given to you.
Mm-hmm.
God took care of that lady. I have no doubt.
Oh, absolutely.
No doubt.
Absolutely. One of the other things I was thinking about as you were sharing, I watched online. I went back and had to go back and watch it. I didn't get to watch it live, but I went back and watched it and listened to the message. One of the things I was thinking about is that it's an easy trap for us to fall into as well. That maybe I don't feel like I make enough money to give right now, but when I make a little more money, when I have a little bit more extra, then I'll choose to jump into this bold giving. That's when I'll really start to get things right. Why is that such a why is that not true? why is that not the case?
I could say with Paul, I've been in situations where I wanted and I didn't have it, and I've been in situations where I had plenty.
Yeah.
When we started out, Alexa and I, we were struggling financially just to make ends meet, and now we're in a situation where we're much more comfortable than we were then. And I can honestly tell you, you make more money, most people anyway, when they make a little more money, their lifestyle creeps up.
Sure.
And they still feel the wolf at the door. You know what I mean? They still feel no matter how much you make, it's never enough. The truth is they've done research and say there is a line that people reach in income to where their happiness increase, the level of increase of that really flattens out on the graph. Once you make X amount, till you get to a certain point of comfort, your happiness does increase a lot with your wealth, with your income going up. But there reaches a point that just really plateaus. And I remember when I read it, it was some years ago, but it said when a household takes in $75,000 a year, they've reached kind of the pinnacle of happiness, and after that it's very incremental.
Right.
Because you think it's always just a little bit more.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah.
When you get a little bit more, it's like, okay, if I had a little bit more, I'd be happy.
Yeah.
The truth is, and I've heard this, success for people is really hard to handle, because one of the things you find out is you make all this money and you realize it wasn't what you thought it would be.
That's exactly right.
I can tell you this, success doesn't always feel like you think it will. It does not. And so people really lie to themselves or deceive themselves into thinking, yeah, I'll start giving when I get a little bit more. If you can't be generous with a little, you'll never be generous with a lot.
Bingo.
You just won't.
Yeah.
And I know that to be the case.
It's almost like I'll start that diet on Monday.
Right.
For real.
You know,
Yeah.
I'm like, no,
For
you
real.
won't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, if you really want to do something, you'll wake up and start doing it.
Yeah, if you're going to change your life, at some point it has to be today.
Yeah.
You have to change now, you
Yeah.
know. And that's true for giving. You just have to decide, I'm going to become generous. I'm going to give. And it's tough because right in those early first gifts or stuff, it's It's a test of faith. It really is.
Yeah, absolutely.
And there was a time we upped our giving. I'll never forget it. It was so discouraging because we upped our giving one year and said God's calling us to step out and up it. And like 2 months later, I realized I'd underpaid on my taxes, and I had this huge tax bill to pay. And I really was, for a minute, I'm like, God, where are you at? I thought I wouldn't. And the enemy will hit you with stuff like that. You may give and have a big power bill or something break, but you see the blessing of God over time. You really do.
It's good.
I don't want everybody thinking, okay, I'm going to start giving to the church and I'm going to get a check for $100,000 next week. That's not how it works.
It's not the way it works, yeah.
You just see the blessing of God piles up and the favor of God goes with us when we're generous, and never been without.
You made a comment in the message yesterday that I think would throw most people for a loop as you were challenging, and which I appreciated. It wasn't this legalistic approach; it was an invitation to a life of generosity. But you made the comment, said, make the decision to give and to give consistently. But then you said you don't necessarily have to give it all, give it all to Upward. If you attend Upward and you call Upward your church home, you should support Upward, yes. But you don't have to give it all to Upward. I think that's something that most churches wouldn't say. What is it about that right there that made you that you felt like, hey, this is a good time to say something like this?
Well, I'm going to give 10% to my local church
Yes.
where I go.
Yeah.
Local ministry, wherever, I'm going to give 10% there. I'm going to do that. When you go beyond that, though, is where I think you give to all kinds of places. I think it's the right thing for people to do. Personally, I believe the right thing to do is to give that 10% to the local church you're attending. I really do think that's a good thing. When you get beyond that, I think you give it to where you let God lead you in your generosity. It may be your local church.
Right.
That may be a church like Upward. And obviously, I'm thankful for Upward and proud of Upward. If you give here, you're giving to all kinds of work around the world, because Upward's not a destination for your money. It's a portal for it to go other places, And so you're giving to all that. But I think you ought to give to ministries that help you. If you're listening to a ministry and they rely on support and it's blessing you, help them. Local charities, I think we ought to give to those. When somebody's sick or a fire or something happens in the community, give to that. My main thought is find out where you're at. I said that to people. Find out what percentage you're actually at, and pray about it and ask. I didn't even say increase it. I just said pray about it and ask God where He wants you to be.
Right.
And Alexa and I have done that over the years. This year, for instance, with the Christmas offering, we gave this offering at Christmas. Her and I played this little game of it. We just said, let's just write down the number you think we're supposed to give this year. And we did it privately, and then we turned the papers over, and it was the same number. And that's happened with us been married almost 30 years. That's happened the whole time.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome. You had I think you had this aha moment Wednesday at our worship night.
Yeah.
Just this idea of greed, and I think it went back a few years to kind of a moment between you and God, and just this idea of what it looks like to break greed off of.
I really think one of the strongholds we're called to break is the stronghold of greed, of the idea that people have is what's mine is mine, and I'm going to keep it, And I heard that in prayer many, many years ago, and then all of a sudden, we've always been generous, but during the pandemic, our generosity just took off, Upward in a big way, and I realized, that's what we're doing. By being generous, we're breaking this hang on to it mentality. So we said, greed is what's mine is mine, and I'm going to keep it. Generosity is what's mine is yours whenever you need it, and that really sets people free,
It's good.
Really good.
You also didn't leave us to just kind of figure things out. You mentioned the fact that there's a resource out there that we are trying to be generous with our people, and anybody who wants it, to be honest with you, it's the Dave Ramsey stuff.
Ramsey Plus.
Ramsey Plus.
That's it, Ramsey Plus.
Yep. Every dollar budgeting app is included with that, and then the Financial Peace University, I believe all that's in there, and so many lessons and things. It's a few $100s, I believe. I'm guessing, but I think it's a few $100s to get that annually. And we were able to partner with them to provide it to everyone so they can get that. I don't know quite how they get it.
It's on our
If they're
website.
listening, it is on the website.
So if you'll go to
now.
ucf.cc on the website right there and go under ministries, there's something right there that's called Financial Resources Ramsey Plus, and you can click right there, and then you can log in and get access to that.
Yeah.
And have that for I think up to right now it's a year, but we kind of been renewing that every year for everybody. So
I think we've done this 3 years now.
Yep,
That
yep.
we've been renewing that. So
if
Now,
you're
if
looking,
people had it last year, do they need to renew again?
no, I think they're
It'll
good
carry
to go.
over?
Yeah, it
Okay.
should carry over. So they should be good to go on that. But yeah, so if you're looking to feel God compelling you and leading you to be a bold giver, and you want to make sure that your finances are in order, then this is a great resource to be able to use it. I use it. Our family uses it. We budget with this and use these resources every month. So I'm a big fan.
budgeting actually helps you be generous.
Yes, very much so.
I will tell you, this is the truth. If you've never budgeted before, when you sit down and budget, you're going to feel like you got a raise because there's all this unaccounted for money. And it takes 3 months at least to get started on a budget to make it actually work. In my experience, 3 months is about what it takes to get it working, to figure out your expenses. But if you're going to give generously and you're going to bump that percentage, a budget helps a whole lot. It really does, especially if you're giving first. And I believe that's the way you do. When you give that, you need to make sure you've planned for the rest of it well.
Gonna find out how much money you actually spend on food,
You will.
which is, for me, it's a lot.
How many Netflix accounts you actually have?
When you start budgeting, you find out all that stuff, all these subscriptions you have that
Yeah.
sort of sneak
I'm
in,
not using that.
and you cancel it. Yeah.
So yeah. So anyways, take advantage of that, please. We want everybody
Yeah.
to take advantage of that. Share it with your friends. Share it with your family. Use that. It's good stuff.
Thank you, guys. Been good. See you
Yeah.
next week.
See you.
Bye bye.
All right.